Is there an operation in Afghanistan and in Iraq that stand out to you for being the most memorable in a good way?
I mean, I have one that's, I would just say,
Like the most positive memory possible, I guess.
there was like a mission that I had to actually lead without being too detailed, but it was multi-nation. So some Brits, some Canadians, us, and then multi-agency, and then some Indigenous forces. And normally a larger group would come in and do this raid, if you will. But they couldn't get there due to weather. So I was tasked with putting a team together to go capture, kill a guy, right? And and it was like TST, time sensitive target. And I literally, and I'm at the time a 29-year-old E6, right? And no one there, I was told not to reveal my rank because
they'd be like, who, what?
Yeah, but like I was the senior JSOC guy, not by age or rank, but by number of deployments in the area, right?
Yeah.
So I got to lead the mission. Long story short, we're going into this area to get this guy, and it's supposed to be, it's supposed to get ranchy or crazy, and it's just 4 guys from, Dev Group and some Brits, Kansoff, and other folks from another agency, and then some Indigenous, and I'm in charge. And we have, I literally I make a 2-page PowerPoint brief, and 1 page is the title. So it's literally 1 page, and that's all the time we have. It's got the comms plan on it, and I have to send it up to the boss in Bagram. I'm like, well, here's my con ops. Here's what we're doing. And this is backed up by something that we had all done together on a whiteboard. And I'm like, well, this is all we can do. You told me it's time sensitive. We have to launch, right? And we go out, and we're expecting, worst case or whatever. And this guy's sort of important. Well, I won't say who it was or where it was. But long story short, we surround the area. And he had a large group of bodyguards with him. And we captured him without a shot fired.
Wow.
And we bring him, we get him out of there as quickly as we can. And he had a large, he had a lot of bodyguards and whatever, but we got the drop and we got him out of there. And, he went black helicopters came and took this guy away. He was a high level bad guy.
Right.
And I won't even say what organization, but he and we had done, a quick plant, and it all worked out. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And the rest of that deployment, I could do no wrong. Right. Cause and I was 29-year-old E6, ground force commander.
That's wild.
And I'm leading. And by the way, the Canadians and the Brits and even the other agency, they're most of them are older than me, and for sure most of them outrank me, right? But I was the senior JSOC guy there, and my own number 2, guy from the command, he was older than me and he was a higher rank, but I had got to the command before him.
Yeah.
So we didn't put a lot of, it wasn't all about, oh, you have to work for the E8 or whatever. Right.
So more experience based.
I had at that time more experience than him.
How did you find working with the Brits and the Canadians?
It was fun. I had I had, very minimal, like 1 or 2 deployments. I got to do a couple of missions with them. So
You guys,
just mixed, depends. Like I remember like one time we got into this huge gunfight. I was with these Brits, SBS, and we had this long patrol, and like they would do like 90-minute E&E briefs because of Bravo 20,
Yeah.
right? Like, like you go through the whole thing. I'm like, holy cow. And like, so we had this long patrol, and we could hear, we could hear that we were being surrounded. It was moonlit. We're trying to get out of there. And I'm just like, hey, reverse this patrol. Let's get out of here. Right. And, they were yakking on the radio, and it's just like, how like Brits talk. And now imagine through your Peltor, and they're yelling, and I don't know, for some reason I thought it would be funny. Like I just went on the radio and I go, hey, how about you guys speak effing English? And I say this to the Brits, right? Yeah. And they're like, oh, you yank, right?
Yeah.
Like
you need subtitles.
Yeah.
Like
I couldn't understand them.
Yeah,
it was like listening to Peaky Blinders.
Yeah. I can't watch that without it. Like, I have no idea what they're saying.
Yeah.
That's got to be challenging.
Yeah, I had fun with them. And then I had, did missions with other groups. So
Yeah.
mostly just, U.S. missions.
Right. I know you're particular in what you go into, and not obviously, as the kidney condition forces you into this position, you end up getting out, really being catapulted into the unknown and having to figure things out. Did a lot of entrepreneurial stuff. I remember we first met back in Denver, like in 2010, 2011, somewhere in there, and have kind of loosely kept in touch since then. But as you've kind of progressed, have you found yourself wanting or deciding to go in a certain direction? Because it's been, some gun stuff, some fitness stuff, some speaking stuff, and I'm curious what you do now, or as much as you want to share. But you've kind of dabbled in a number of different things. Has anything stood out as being like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, kind of thing?
That's a really awesome question. Like finding that like my true calling and purpose.
Yeah.
And I just, there's times when I've been very intentional, like this is what I want to do. I'll go try it. But then it's kind of a hybrid, Mike. So sometimes it's like, hey, I want to do this. I'll go try it, or I'll go do it. But then there's times where like, faith for me is everything. God opens a door, and then I go that way. Right. So, when I got out of the military, couldn't find a job, so made one, right? Our mutual friend Happy and I started a business. And then I went from that to, firearms, entrepreneurial, retail, gun store, gun range, to like I was always into fitness. So I went and, was the CEO of this big kettlebell education company. And then had an opportunity to go, work at the NRA, but not in the politics side of it, but to be the director of all their, firearms training nationwide. So I knew I could make like a change, you know what I mean, to like the quality of
instructorship.
Right. Like if they have like 100 at the time, like 115,000 certified pistol instructors teaching 1 million people a year. So if you could like my idea was like, if I could just improve it like incrementally, like I've really impacted something at scale, you know what I mean? So I got to do that. And then I didn't want to move back to Virginia. So, kind of did a few other things. I've done consulting, I've done speaking, and now I have a new full-time position in Omaha. And just kind of going where a lot of times it's really like doors that I believe God opens for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you even generalize what you do now industry wise, or would you rather not?
So I just, I had left the NRA and I had done some work for a manufacturing company, like as their VP of training. And then I went into beverage and kind of supplements, and I kind of just started as a consultant and ended up being like a COO kind of role. Went from that back to consulting and did some work in the energy industry for a large energy company in Omaha. And now, most recently, got a new full-time job in the C-suite at a kind of a real estate and investment development company.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So really and what I enjoy about that work is, I don't know, I've done times where I've worked on a project and I'm like, it's my project, or I'm working on or a couple of projects, right? And I'm very particular, so I really go deep on it and get really perfectionist. But I've done better where I'm not just doing project work, but I'm doing in a leadership role.
Right.
And when I have other people working on a project, or I'm just, overseeing a bunch of, I'm doing lots of the doing, but I prefer the leadership position over just project work,
right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. That stands to reason, given the 29-year-old you running the show as a ground force commander.
Yeah.
Once you've done that, it's probably hard to just work on projects.
Yeah.
Later down the line. I'd love to get into just a couple of kind of current events.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up here, you wrote an article, "Beware Navy SEALs Do Not Know It All," which I love.
Yeah.
Tell me, how did that come about, and what was the reason behind it?
Honestly, forget what I wrote, but I do, when I talk, at some point I realized, and this might have been a couple of years into the business thing, right? And I just kind of realized, it's an accomplishment to become a Navy SEAL. It's really cool. And for a while, to me, that's all I wanted to do. And then I kind of had this feeling I did that, but someone else could. It was bigger than what that guy did, or what that guy did, or whatever. Again, I was pretty competitive. But then it took a while, but after I got out, I realized whether you own your own business or you're successful in ag sales or software sales or what, I'm seeing, my brother-in-law, other people doing engineering or whatever they're doing, right? And they're successful. My father-in-law had a very successful business, right? And I've just realized how hard that is. And I also realized not everything you learn in the teams is really directly transferable. I don't know, 25 years of working, 12 years military, 13 years out, or maybe more 26. But I was in for 12, out for 14 now. And I've realized yes, there are things that transcend the battlefield and work in the private sector, but there are other things that do not.
Yeah.
Right. And also there's some pretty cool stuff that people that weren't Navy SEALs did
Mm-hmm.
in the business world. Right. And it's it's impressive, especially being a SEAL always came easy to me, honestly. I was pretty good at it, I think. There's plenty of others that were much better, but I made it through BUDS, first time, every time. I made it through Green Team. It was not super hard for me. But some of the business stuff is wow, this is really challenging. Mm-hmm. And one thing in particular, leadership, right? When you're leading in the SEAL teams, really you just you could be a ground force commander or you could be leading a mission, or you could just be a LPO or a trip leader. Like that's your first leadership thing. Usually you're second in a department, right? And then maybe you get to lead a trip in your second platoon, whatever, right? Leadership in the SEAL teams, or really in probably any special ops, is like you're not motivating people. You're not trying to push them. Like, if anything, you're like, holding the reins or just steering them, right? And it took me it didn't take me long when I got out. Like, now you have a business or whatever you're doing. Like, most of the time when you're leading others, like, haven't all gone to buds.
Yeah.
It's a different leadership challenge altogether, right?
Yeah, I think leadership in the military, and especially in special operations, is far easier.
Yes.
For two reasons. One, there's so many things you can take for granted. Showing up on time, having the right stuff, having the attitude of I'll figure it out if you don't tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
Like there's just a lot of givens, and there's also that kind of Mark I motto. It's almost a cookie cutter, like,
yep,
solid dude. You know everything about them. You know what's going to work, what's not. Like, there's not a lot of variance in my leadership style with this guy versus that guy, where on the outside world, everybody's so different. It's like,
and they don't have the luxury of 6 months of buds before they get hired.
Or you don't have the luxury of a kick in the nuts selection to know that you can take these things for granted. And so the way I talk to this person versus that person versus this person, it could be totally different.
Totally different.
Yeah, it is challenging. I'm always very impressed by people that build businesses, as having been one of them, and knowing how hard it's been, and seeing people that can scale things so much faster and more successful with less resources. I'm blown away by it.
It's same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's given me like great respect for, now I'm just so fascinated in like what others do. Like,
right. I mean, it's such a skill set, and I mean, I run into that. I'm sure you guys have too, like former military guys get out, they may be really good at shooting or teaching or dog stuff, or, like I know lots of really good dog trainers. We both know lots of good, tacticians and shooting instructors, whatever, but don't know anything about business, and it's just a totally separate skill set.
Yeah.
Transversely, I mean, there's people who are very good at business and aren't really good at anything else that can come in, and even if they don't know anything about the thing, they know how to make the thing super profitable and make it all work, because that's what they're good at, and it is such a specific skill set. But I'm curious what your take on Hegseth is, generally speaking, and this kind of rebranding of the Secretary of War versus the Defense. Do you think it's just a rebranding thing and symbolic, or do you think there's any real structuralness to it?
I think it's, I heard his speech I should say, I heard snippets of one of his speeches, back to standards. And I was fired up. I was like, wish it was like that always. Right. And I think,
I wish I'd never gotten away from that.
Right. So I think one of the things that has, led to the success of the SEAL teams, like full stop, is standards, right? And no willingness to bend that standard.
Right.
We had some active duty SEALs in town the other day for an event in Omaha. And I was talking to like 12 of them there. And some of them are, at West Coast teams, some are in TRADET, and some were BUDS instructors. And they're like, hey, we still have the exact same standard. We haven't changed the run time, the swim time, the push-ups, the pull-ups, the this, the that, whatever. We have maintained it. And they still have a relatively high attrition rate. And they have faced incredible pressure, to reduce the standards for, women or whomever's going to go through training. And they have not. And And I think just having like, I've been on lots of teams, as you know. When you're in the teams, the SEAL teams, but like every deployment, you're on a new team, right? Whether it's a platoon or a squadron or a whatever. And then since then, I've been in, teams in the private sector, right? Teams that I've led, teams that I've been a new guy on, or a team that I'm, consulting with. I've also, I've been fascinated by it. So I've studied teams, right? I've studied I love reading about the success of what did Google do and what does Apple do or whatever, right? Or what's the difference between the Chiefs of today versus the Patriots of old, or Nebraska from the 90s, or Alabama in the early 2000s, right? Well, the thing is, honestly, there's no one recipe. They all had good leaders without a question, right? And there's no one single recipe, but there is one constant across all elite teams. Number one is they have standards, whatever those standards are. And if they not only if they are good, but they stay good, they maintain those standards, right? Even especially in, when they're pressured to reduce those standards, or the pressure might come after a win. Let's just be a little lazy tomorrow or next week or whatever. They just, they double down. They don't get complacent. So they have teams that win or teams that succeed long-term. They have a standard. It might be different, but they know what it is. These are the things we do. This is how we do them. And this is our way, right? They maintain them. And really to get to that elite level, elite teams, they self-police those standards, right? So early on, it's the boss holding others accountable, and then there's other leaders holding others accountable. But eventually it becomes so ingrained in the culture, because at some point, if you're big enough, the boss can't hold everyone accountable. And when it's so ingrained in the culture that it's kind of self-policed, right? You have these standards. Anyway, I say that because Hegseth got in trouble on YouTube by some YouTube commenter or whatever, or some some cable news person got upset by what he said. But I mean, ultimately, we got to have standards, right? It's not diversity that makes the military great. It's unity on the mission, right? Diversity gives the military or any team perspective, but diversity on a team, as in we all have a different priority, that's not give me a break.
Yeah. I didn't see anything that he said that I disagreed with. And I also found it frustrating that I felt like everything that he said are things that shouldn't have even had to have been said.
No.
Especially to that group of people.
Yeah.
I mean, to me,
and they want to, if they're okay, you're going to quit.
Yeah. Good.
Is that because you can't meet the standard?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a second part to the standard thing too that gets overlooked. Agree with everything you said, and couldn't have articulated it better. I think the dovetail to that is that also that the minimum standard needs to be high enough to where if it's barely met, you're still kicking ass. And that's where, because typically you met the standard as a negative, right? When you barely met the standard.
Standards.
Yeah, if you meet the standard, that standard should be so high that you're still an absolute pipe hitter by meeting the standard,
especially in that context, right? We're talking about life and death stuff here. And, I agree. Maybe I'll go listen to his full speech, but I was I was down with it.
Yeah,
as in I liked it.
Yeah.